Hey, what's up? Welcome back to the Soul Work Podcast and the life of me. I want to come and talk about the life of student athlete and what life was like and what routines was like. But everybody's experience is so different. Everybody's moments were so different. And this is going to be catered, and a lot of people are going to feel and understand this if you were a student athlete, but this is for the people who weren't student athletes to kind of see and experience, what that life is like and how different that life really feels. So I started out at the Air Force Academy first, playing football there, and it was different. It was a different experience because you were going to a military institution. You're going to a school that is held at a higher standard than a lot of other collegiate universities. If you ever think about any other D1 football, Air Force does not come up. Like, I remember going with times with some of my buddies there, and we would go around to other schools, like if we would go to a party or whatever the case may be, and some people would really be like, "Oh, you go to the academy? Like, what's that?" And it would be like, dang, is our name really not out there like that? And it's such a different thing, as well as being in that Mountain West Conference and not being one of those just D1, like Colorado State, for example. One of those schools, or Boise State, or Hawaii, for example. Like it's very different. So we would go and play up there, but our schedules would be so different as well, being a student athlete, because we weren't just a regular student. So our days would start out as, being a regular student, making sure you'd wake up, go to class, make sure you would make it to breakfast, all this, that, and the third. But before we get into like actually being at the school, there was a recruitment process that the collegiate athletes have to go through, and I'm sure you all know and hear about it. With going in, is you have to get an offer. You have to go, unless you're in this particular situation of having NIL day or NLI, and signing your contract, a way to go to the school. And you get the clout, you get the hype and whatnot when you start getting attention and stuff from schools and college. But imagine the feeling of going to like a military institution that not a lot of people know about. So I mean, it's a great experience, especially going from a school that didn't have a whole lot of collegiate athletes. Still, shout out to Wakeland for hosting my experience. But to have someone being like, this is a nice school, it's a very good education, but that's what seemed like what everybody was more focused on, was the educational portion of it rather than football. But that's all I wanted to do. All I wanted was to play football. School was not my number one. And I'm sure a lot of other student athletes can attain to that, because you get that, not adrenaline rush necessarily, but partly like you are so hungry for the game. You love this sport so much, unless you were just one of those clouded athletes and were just very well known. If you were one of those people that was just very hungry for the game and wanted to play very bad, that was all you wanted. And that was all you felt. And this was the identity that you had. Maybe this was something that you built up your entire life and you were known for football. And that was something for me necessarily. Being involved in athletics was so big for me. Thank you for my parents for instilling that necessarily in me. But I was very driven to play, no matter what happened, no matter if I got injured, no matter if I got hurt, no matter if I wasn't starting, no matter if I was starting. I wanted to play bad. No matter what coaches said to me, no matter what things happened, no matter what coaches may have denied me, whatever the case may be, I was going to play. So when I got that full ride scholarship from the academy, I was like, man, at least I'm seeing that some of my work is being acknowledged. But it's also like, man, thank you so much for this happening, as well as me being injured right now and people still wanting attention necessarily from me. So that was an amazing feeling. But going into football is you get into this state where you have coaches giving you a false perception about what school's going to be like. So I remember going from like our visit, and I actually never got an official visit. I got a bunch of unofficial visits and going to, camps, tryouts. But like I said, I was injured. But I was still at the at the point where I was still competing at the time. Like, I was getting back, but the coaches were like, we don't need you to do like the 40 time. We don't need you to do all this stuff. I just want you to work with the coach, go through position drills and stuff, and then just go from there, because you already got the scholarship. So I was just there to get the experience, which was awesome, which was cool. But it gives you that little chip on your shoulder, like, man, like, I got it, these guys don't. You know what I mean? It's a different level of competition. And I was like, man, I'm that guy. That's how I felt, and I felt like on top of the world. But then I was hearing some guys from the story, from some other athletes' experiences, and they're like, oh yeah, they had a game room, they had this, that, and the third, they had this other rooms, facilities so nice, this, that, and the third, and then we get to school and all that stuff is gone. Like, all this stuff is missing. And not to downplay the academy, still and now with the realization and stuff from life, it was still an amazing experience. Although, like, I didn't want to be there at the time, and I still don't want to be there. It was an amazing experience to now have from my life, like, to know that I went through it and I still did it. Did I go all the way through for my 4 years? No. Was it for me? No. So I made my decision to get out of there. But I'm glad that I went through the experience, though. So we all had different perspectives and different stories necessarily from it. But once again, not the life of a regular student. So once again, this is a military institution, so we have military duties, and sometimes those would be like ruck runs. Sometimes, if you don't know what a ruck run is, you got this really heavy backpack on, and you're running for some miles, for some distance. Or they had things like log runs, or you had workouts in a place called the Quad, and the Quad was like the first floor, or like the bottom floor of where we lived, and it was just this big outside area, a bunch of grass, pull-up bars, all this other stuff, and they would do workouts and stuff there. But being in football, we were always in practice, we always had our workouts, we always had meetings, so we wouldn't be with the regular students during that time. So there were always some people like, man, you're not really even like a cadet, you're not really a part of this experience because you're always skipping out to go to football. But it's like, I'm not skipping out on anything. Like, I got my full ride scholarship because of football, and a lot of other guys were getting, like, not picked on, but they would get called out for it. And people that weren't athletes, that were older, will always try to like tease you or give you some type of wording. I'm trying to watch my language though as well, of some type of not a threat, but just more word, just chirping at you, just because you weren't during these certain things. But there were some individuals that understood it, that understood this timetable and the schedule that we were at. So we had things called, I'm pretty sure they were called GIs, maybe. I'm probably incorrect. For any of my buddies that were there and you're listening to this, put it in a comment or something about it, about what these things were called. But we had exams and stuff in the morning, and they would be early in the morning, maybe about like 7 o'clock. So that would mean breakfast would start at like 6, and you would need to get there before your time for your exam. But what people don't understand is, from your freshman year, there's like a certain ritual that you have to go through, and pretty much we have like marble flooring on the school campus that freshmen have to like run along. And so you gotta imagine like 40-degree weather, 30-degree weather, 20-mile-an-hour winds, snow, and you're running through this, trekking through this, stomping 3 to 12 inches of snow in boots or in blues. Pretty much you got like dress shoes, slacks on and stuff, and you're running through this stuff trying to get to breakfast and trying not to get in trouble from all the upperclassmen and stuff there. So go take your exam, be stressed out about your exam, and now it's like, okay, did I study well enough? And then you get pressured in this exam space because the environment of the place is so intense. So you take your exam, and it's like, all right, now I wonder if I failed, if I passed, or if I did well, if I did do well, this, that, and third. And then it's like, all right, well, I have to go to class now. So you gotta go run to class and go into all these other classes, this, that, and the third. And like, don't let your uniform be incorrect, because you're getting stopped, yelled at, push-up position, push-ups. I mean, that's 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't got my emblem on or whatever specific thing, my name tag, whatever the case may be. I don't have my hat on right. If something's wrong, people chirping, yelling at you and whatnot. But there would be other students, which is cool for like accountability purposes. But imagine at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm running, trying to get to class. Like when I mean running, I mean like you're running. And if you're not running, you're like jogging. You're going to get yelled at for that too. So it's like, dude, I'm not trying to get talked at this morning. I just want to get to what I'm doing. And they're all up in your face, this, that, and the third. But you got to imagine me. I'm a bigger individual. 6'3", 6'2" and a half, whatever the doctors are saying. I'm taller than a lot of individuals. I'm bigger than a lot of those individuals. So when they're yelling at me, I'm looking down. And so I'm really like, who are you yelling at? Like, why are you yelling at me? Why are you yelling at me? So I'm going doing my classes, and then class will go from about 8 to noon. And we're all in a bunch of different classes. We'll go through that once again another time. But going through our routines, going through class 8 to 12. Then you got lunch from about noon to 1-ish or so. Would go through that, would maybe have like 20 minutes, 30 minutes time, like a break. And then it's straight to football. You know, you're going right down to the facility, making sure you get changed, get to your workout, and don't let you be late to your workouts. It's like, at one moment I slept in. I slept in for one of my workouts, and I had got to the point where I was late one time, and Coach Getty, love Coach Getty, stood to death. I got in late. That man put me on the Stairmaster for like 30 minutes. And at the time, like, we're tired, you know, we're doing a whole bunch of running throughout the day. And before even my warm up, I'm on this Stairmaster doing intervals and all this. And I'm sweating, breathing hard. And we at high altitude, all this stuff. So I'm like, all right, I'm breathing hard. And one of my buddies, best friend of mine, and still talk to this day, and extremely proud of him, was my buddy Trey. Shout out to Trey, playing football still. He's playing for Las Vegas Raiders. Complete shout out to you. But he came to check on me and was like, dude, are you good? Like, what was going on? This, that, and the third. And he came to check up on me, and Coach Getty just let him have it. What are you doing over there, Trey? Get over here, this and the third. And it was one of the funniest experiences, because it was like he was fully intentional of just trying to help me out, figuring out what was going on. And I was just sitting there on the Stairmaster and just hearing him getting chewed out. So man, we have a lot of stories of people just getting in trouble for being late. But we'll go through our workouts, go through our warm-ups, and then head to practice. But now, coming from a perspective of being a freshman, there was a lot of, once again, those false promises at the beginning of, you know, you're going to play, you're going to start, you're going to do this position, you're going to do this, that, and the third when you get there. Mind you, it's information that you don't know. So when I went through basic training, I went in at 225 pounds, you know, solid size. I was taking a lot of creatine though at the time. So I was a little bit, just a lot of like more water weight than anything. So when I went through basic training, I had actually lost like 30 something pounds. So I got down to like 194 or so. So I was thin. I was very thin at the time. And everything was pretty much in a sense of what you can envision. It's like calisthenics. So doing like a lot of running, a lot of pull-ups, a lot of sit-ups, a lot of crunches, a lot of push-ups, mountain climbers, all that type of stuff. So I was thin. And coach was like, you need to eat more, this, that, and the third. And they giving me like tuna sandwiches, not even tuna sandwiches, just the packet. Like, and it was like 25 calories. I would get crackers and Uncrustables, one. And it's like, dude, how do you expect me to put on any weight at this point in time? And he's like, well, obviously you don't want it enough, this, that, and third. You need to eat more. It's like, well, how? You know, how am I supposed to do that? Because we're not allowed a fridge in our room freshman year, unless you get a note or paperwork from the nutritionist, which I tried, got denied. You're not allowed to cook in your room, but I still bought a hot plate, bought all that stuff and was using it. And I didn't learn that until like my sophomore year, but I was doing that. Like, I was doing anything you could possibly think of to try to get more food. But for those of you who know, went to the academy, the cafeteria food ain't hidden. You know, that food at Mitch's ain't hidden. So I'm not eating all that, especially if I'm getting yelled at lunch or at dinner for not having my eyes down at my plate. Like, bro, I can't eat like how I need to eat. But luckily there were some guys that was looking out that was like, here's a little extra food, is that and the third, because you had to ask for permission to get seconds. Like, am I 5?
dude, like who are you to tell me I can't have more food when there's food in this tray? But going through that experience, the coach was like, you need to put on more weight. So then I got to a point where I'm like, Coach, you telling me all this stuff? I'm like, what's up? Like I'm not understanding. Like I'm smarter than you think I am. I know these plays. I know this plays in and out. I understand the routine. I understand the program. I'm here for the workouts. Like I'm doing all this stuff. Stop telling me I'm gonna do this, that, and the third, and you're not holding your end of the word. So it got very frustrating to a point I was just like, man, I'm gonna take care of school. And then school was difficult at the time because things for football were going rough at the time. So me and my coach would always just get into it. And once again, it'll be a story that I'll get a little bit deeper, but a lot of my other student athletes, like I guarantee you guys understand of having that one coach that you just did not click with and you did not agree with them or did not see with them eye to eye. So there was always arguments, confrontation, this, that, and the third. And it got rough to a point where it was like, man, like I'm not gonna kiss up to you. That's not the type of person I am. It's not gonna be the individual that I'm gonna be. I get it. This is a business. I get the concept of it, but I'm a man too, and I'm not gonna have you treat me a certain way just because you're in a position of being my coach, and I'm not gonna play football just because of me getting the scholarship, this, that, and the third. You can't necessarily take my scholarship away because of this type of school, so you're not gonna treat me this certain type of way. But that's personally how I feel, and that's still how I feel to this day. I stand firm in what I believe in, and that's something I feel like is my strong suit, is I will stand firm for what I believe in, and I always will. So there was always that back and forth necessarily for it, and that was where a lot of things just necessarily clicked for me. Was a lot of things with this school with a form of leadership. Wasn't the leadership that I wanted to be around. It wasn't the guidance necessarily that I needed, but I needed the structure of the area of self-confidence and myself about the things that I could do. And that's what I believe football does teach. It does teach you confidence and how to have confidence. But when you are thinking in a confidence standpoint of navigating relationships, building connections with other people, but also standing firm for what you believe in when other people try to bring their opinion about, I feel like you don't get enough practice necessarily with that, because it's always yes sir, no sir. It's always, I'm going to do this, we'll do this. Coach tell you to do this, you got to do it. And you just get bought in by somebody always telling you what to do, and you just following suit with it. And eventually, that can create a good relationship, which is awesome, but I'm not going to kiss up for it. But it's still a point, like coaches would always still say that I'm coachable. If I respect you and you show that respect to me, I'm going to show what I got, and I'm going to implement your tips and your strategies and stuff that you brought to the table, because I respect it and you actually know what you're talking about, and I'm going to show that. So I was always told that I was very coachable, and I know that I'm coachable for that fact. But if you're going to speak at me in a particular way, you're going to act in this particular way, like I'm below, I'm not going to stand for that, and I will have words for that. But there's also times for it, and there's times not for it. And that was something that I necessarily had to learn. That's why I believe the structure of me going to that school is important, especially with being high profile people of being in the military. So that was just an experience. And then going to the student athlete life when I transferred and came to Tech, it's a whole different atmosphere. It's people that are, here for football, but now educationally things are different. So there's so many facets of being a student athlete that just kind of can resonate with a lot of people. And I feel like I have been through so many different situations of one being a scholarship athlete, knowing how the program works with that, as well as being a walk-on athlete and knowing how that, dynamic works. So there's so many facets and directions and stuff that we'll talk, that I can talk about with athletics, and that'll be through another episode when we just dive deeper into
certain things. But thank you for hopping on here. Thank you for listening. Student athletes, I hope you resonated with some of those things that I've experienced. For the people who weren't student athletes, I hope you at least got a little taste about, how things are from my perspective, just to give a little hint about what some of these student athletes are having to go through, of what some of them had to go through and what are going through now. So it's a different perspective, and it's a different realm of the world. So thank you for hopping on here. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed, and I hope you enjoy the next episodes to come. See y'all.